I married Michael Proctor. I guess you've seen him in the news. I got the bad-blooded blues. And you think he's just a dirtbag and only use him for your views. I got the bad-blooded blues. His texts have stated she's a whack job, but he lacks the social cues. I got the bad-blooded blues. He assumes she ran him over without evidence or clues. I got the bad-blooded blues. He abuses place of power by searching pictures of her nude. I got the bad-blooded blues. He used disgusting commentary about her having leaky poo. I got the bad-blooded blues. And now it wins that folks don't like me because of language that he used. I got the bad-blooded blues. And when he said see you next Tuesday, a statement he cannot recuse, I got the bad-blooded blues. And now we're coming on a balloon knot that somehow lit a stinky fuse. I got the bad-blooded blues. So if I file for harassment, the case would definitely lose. I got the bad-blooded blues.
Everyone, welcome. I'm back. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? No, it. I missed you, and you. There in the back, right up there, down in the front. Welcome back. Good to have you here. Good to be back. Are you ready for it? I'm only. How late am I? 8 minutes today, but it's okay. The cats are fed. Everything is sorted. I've got my coffee. I've got my thermos. And, yeah, I'm queued up and ready to go. So, what have we got on today? Now, let me just begin by saying you're welcome. Because I have just saved you 4 hours of your la-la-lally life that you don't have to go through and you will never get back again, because I took one for the team, okay? I did. 4 hours of Lali. I took one for the team, okay? His direct of Tully. I'd rather watch grass grow, quite frankly. So you're welcome. I won't make you sit through that. Basically, they rehashed everything that we already knew. There was nothing of any evidentiary value that was introduced. The only thing they did introduce was the cell phone towers where Karen's phone binged from, and where she travelled from the waterfall to 34 Fairview, and then to the Meadows, and then to Dighton, and which nothing is being contested. So yep, let's just not go there. So it was basically, I think, him going over, trying to show the jury that they've done, a good investigation by just rehashing everything that we already know anyway. You're welcome. Yeah, you are welcome. You will thank me, and I'll play this because I did watch it, and I do like watching the Glare on YouTube. I like watching his commentary of it, so I often use that as my channel to like watch it as I'm researching it, to get the good morning, Bri, to get the the info that I need and all the rest of it. And he pretty much summed it up. So I'll have a listen to this.
Because he seems to have his answers. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they're just were they prepping? Lolly prepped the fuck out of him though. But like when I picture it, I picture like
This is hysterical.
Lolly all. So Brian, do you want to go over some of these lines, or? And I see Tully just like, no, there's no rush. Come here. Come here and have a seat. Relax. Come here, right here. Sit right here. Here you go. I think we should really go over these lines. I don't know if this is really appropriate. Calm down.
He cracks me up.
Haven't you had any funny before? You never heard of something called fun, Tully? Or Lolly? You never heard of something called fun, Lolly? All work and no play makes Adam Lolly a dull boy. I've got my lines down. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of everything when we get in there.
He cracks me up so bad.
I mean, dude, he is 100% like just reciting answers. He's ready for fucking everything.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. The jury sees, after everything the jury has already seen, you don't think they see through this shit? You don't think that they see through this fucking smoke and mirrors? Okay, you just fucking made us sit through all this video footage that shows nothing.
And that, my dears, sums up the entire direct of Lolly's direct examination of Tully in a nutshell. So, but I will say that Tully presents, he's immaculately presented. He comes across as very articulate and very well versed. It's almost like he's memorized his answers word for word pretty much. And he pushes back. He does. He pushes back. And there was a moment there I thought, oh, Jacko, have you met your match this time? But he brings his A grade. Don't you worry about that. So big shout out to the Glera for his awesome rendition of Lolly and Tully. And do go over and like his page. He is hysterical. He's not rude. He's not offensive. He's not he'll drop the odd F-bomb, but it's not in a derogatory manner. He doesn't insult anyone. He's very level-headed and happy for everyone to have their own opinion, and that's exactly the type of community that I would like to create. I'd like to have, a safe and supportive community here where everyone can have their say and not feel like they're, afraid to have a different opinion and get, get yelled at or abused or whatever. So yeah, that's what my aim is for this. So yes, he's like the political version. He's like the polar opposite of Proctor. So his morning, George, or is it afternoon over there? Alrighty. So what else have I written down here? Yes, they introduced just the details of the cell phone towers, and but I think they were trying to baffle the jury with bullshit, pretty much. But that's what that was about. So we're going to skip straight to cross-examination, which is the good bits anyway, because Jackson goes over it all anyway, and I'll go through that after. So welcome to the defence rests. I'm your hostess for the mostess for this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whatever it is that whatever time zone you're in. Afternoon just. All right, it's 9:15 here. Okay, day 24. Well, yes, it is because I skipped Tully's direct examination started the last hour of last 40 minutes of yesterday and continued on today, and now we're going to direct. I'll bring that up onto the
Good morning,
stage.
Lieutenant
There we
Tully.
go.
Good morning.
I'm not going to go in any particular order, so forgive me if I bounce around just a little bit. You indicated that on direct examination this morning that you didn't seek a search warrant for 34 Fairview, the interior of 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes,
To your knowledge, nobody under your supervision sought such a search warrant either, correct?
correct.
You explained that in your mind, there was no probable cause to seek a search warrant for the interior of the home,
Yep.
right?
Yes,
But you also admitted that you didn't seek consent, for which you don't have.
I
have probable
agree.
cause
Coffee
to do it,
Cafe and
correct?
welcome.
correct.
You could ask me right now, hey, Alan, can I look at your cell phone? If I say, sure, you do your thing, right?
I could.
But for a court to order that I hand over my cell phone, you got to get a search warrant, sign an affidavit, and get a court to agree with it, correct?
Yes,
You've applied for myriad search warrants in your career, I'm guessing.
yes,
Very
Oh, these
experienced,
cats are going
correct?
crazy.
supposedly.
And I expect that there have
Felix,
been circumstances,
Mom.
Lieutenant Tully, in which you sought a search warrant and the judge says, no, I don't think there's enough here, correct?
Yes.
You don't get in trouble for that, correct?
With whom? No,
With the court.
no,
Well, it's not illegal.
it's not illegal.
You don't get sanctioned for it. You don't get your pay docked because you don't get a search warrant based on an affidavit, correct?
Correct.
So there's no real sanction in seeking it if you in good faith believe that there's a reason to seek it, correct?
Outside of the time that it takes to author it and
Of
put it
course.
together and go to the court, yes, there's no sanction.
Of course, but in a homicide investigation, you're not going to fail to do certain investigative tasks because it takes time. You're going to do what is necessary for the investigation, correct? Yes. Of course. You indicated that you did not believe that there was information sufficient that
Yay!
y'all had at the very initial stages of the investigation to seek a search warrant or to
Which part of the UK, Coffee Cafe? We've got George here from the UK as well.
ask for consent, correct?
Yes,
But you did know the following. In the initial moments of the beginning of the investigation, you were aware that John O'Keefe had been invited to a party inside a home, correct?
yes,
You knew that that home was located at 34 Fairview.
yes.
You also knew that John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview, correct?
We believe so, yes.
You also knew at the time that he had been, for want of a better phrase, partying with the individuals who were inside the home, correct? Expected to meet at the house.
They were at a bar previous to that, yes.
You're aware that
Welcome,
a drinking
welcome.
glass was found in the yard attendant to or close to adjacent.
Have we all seen this? Hands up who've seen it. Gabby, did you see it today? And we're missing AJ. Where's she at?
to where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
Yes,
That drinking glass had been broken, correct?
yes,
You're aware that drinking glasses are commonly found inside homes, right?
as well as bars.
As well as bars.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
at that point, you didn't know. It's just a broken glass, correct?
It's a broken glass, correct?
You also know that he was found without a coat on.
Yes,
Are coats normally worn outside or inside?
it's user's choice.
Fair enough. 18 degrees, you would expect that if someone was outside, they'd have a coat on, correct?
I'm the kind of person that wears shorts throughout the year. I'll often go without a jacket.
All right, a true Bostonian.
Yes, sir.
He didn't have any coat, gloves, scarf, nothing like that.
Especially yesterday. I've got the best 4 minutes I saved. If anyone wants to rewatch that bit.
Correct.
He had no winter gear on whatsoever, correct?
Correct.
Under ordinary
I
circumstances.
love Brandy.
You may be the exception, but
She's
under
just
ordinary
so cute.
circumstances, if someone was out in 18-degree weather, you might expect that they would have some winter garb on, correct?
Objection.
You certainly would expect that.
I'm gonna
if someone
star
took
it,
their
Gabby.
coat, their glove, their hat, their winter gear off, you might leave it inside the house, right? Rather than outside the house.
Objection.
I'll let you answer that, Detective Lieutenant.
It's probably predicated on where you take it off
Right.
and your relationship to the location.
He's not
Right.
making it easy for him, is he?
Reasonable assumption might be the winter gear might be inside the house.
Objection.
Is that a reasonable assumption?
Is that a
Detective
reasonable
Lieutenant?
assessment?
No, Your Honor.
It's not
Really?
reasonable that he would have his jacket inside the house? You wouldn't just assume that?
Well, using the term "the house," you talking about any house? 34 Fairview?
Correct.
No, it's not reasonable.
All right. You didn't think it was reasonable at the time.
Still don't.
And
Even asked.
you know what the funny
What do you
thing is? I had to laugh. You'll get it later, but have a look what's on the arm of the witness stand in front of him. Black nitrile gloves. He calls himself a detective. Just wait.
Have a jacket off inside the house. And I'm talking about at the time, the initial stages of the investigation.
Who am I asking this question to?
So I'm asking if you believe it was reasonable if a man is found 30 feet outside the front door of a home and he's got no winter gear on whatsoever, that perhaps he came from inside the home not having donned his winter gear.
Mhm.
Objection.
Can you answer that, Detective Lieutenant?
Can you answer that, Detective Lieutenant?
It's not reasonable, given other information I had.
You also know that he didn't have a shoe on, correct?
Why is it
Yes.
not reasonable?
Uh,
It's perfectly reasonable.
where might you look for the shoe if you didn't find it out by his body initially?
Well, the question's not accurate to the facts we had at the time.
Well, the facts you had at the initial stages, I'm talking about just after 6:37, 7:30 in the morning, when the investigation was beginning. During those times, you didn't have any information about where the other shoe was, except he just didn't have a shoe on at the hospital, correct?
We didn't know there was a shoe not accounted for until after noontime.
So when you did find out that there was a shoe unaccounted for, one place to look might be outside, correct?
Yes,
And another place
one
to
might
look
be
might be inside the home, correct?
It's not rocket science.
we looked at the former and we located it there.
You also are aware that a body is being dragged by the shoulders, could easily lose a shoe.
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever experienced a homicide in which a body is dragged and you're aware of a shoe being pulled off while the body's being dragged?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
I don't have experience with that.
I'll allow
Certainly not outside the realm of possibility as a professional investigator.
It's possible.
You're also aware that, at least initially,
I
it
think
appeared from
they've both done their homework on one another because it's like a battle of wills. The testosterone is flowing.
accounts that John O'Keefe may have been involved in a physical altercation.
Nobody answered my question,
Matter of
chat.
fact, that was reported by one of your subordinates, Yuri Buchanan, to the medical examiner's office, right?
As a possibility, yes.
As a possibility. And you're aware that your other subordinate, Trooper Proctor, according to certain information he had gotten from first responders, also believed that a physical altercation was possible, right? As well.
It was possible, yes.
Okay. And you also knew that the house would be a normal location to have other individuals who might have been involved in that physical altercation.
I agree.
Objection.
It's way too
Can you answer
scripted
that,
and
Detective Lieutenant?
An altercation could take place anywhere.
Exactly.
And people can often travel from the location of the altercation miles away to another location.
Or they could travel 30 feet outside.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on. Where is it? Where is it? Too slow, too slow. Where is it?
Yeah, eat it, fucker. Eat that shit. Eat that turd.
Sorry, y'all.
In the early morning hours of, well, let's say the
Sorry,
hours
not sorry.
following your Massachusetts
I don't know,
State Police
Gabby.
initiation or engagement in this investigation, you became aware of Brian Higgins.
It's about the shoe,
Correct.
I think.
Yes,
That name was bantied about as a potential witness in the investigation.
Bantied
correct?
about.
yes,
And you're aware that Brian Higgins indicated that he saw a tall, dark-haired man enter the home after he arrived, correct?
I'm not aware of that.
And the reason you're not aware of it, Lieutenant Tully,
It's 'cause you
is
didn't
nobody
ask.
bothered to interview Brian Higgins
No.
February 10th, right?
Objection.
So in that form, that is sustained. Ask it differently, Mr.
When was
Jackson.
Brian Higgins first interviewed?
February 7th?
7th, 10th?
Did-
Yeah, in February, not January 29th, certainly.
Correct.
Although he was known to be inside the house, correct?
Yes,
So had you known that, had you had the information, for instance, that Brian Higgins admitted to having seen a tall, dark-haired man walk in the house, that might have changed the complexion of your investigation at that time.
objection.
Can you answer that, Detective Lieutenant?
In
Can
the
you
off
answer
chance
that,
that Mr.
Detective
Higgins
Lieutenant?
presumably had said something like that, I would certainly need more information describing this person. I would ask a series of questions to narrow it down to make sure that this person was John O'Keefe.
Right, exactly. That would just be a normal part of the
I
investigation.
know,
Just
I
take
know.
Evidence A and link it to evidence B to evidence C. That would be the normal way to
Which
do
brings me
things.
back to my
We would
question
normally
in
follow the
chat.
evidence. Correct.
The very first question.
But in point of fact, nobody did seek a warrant to go inside the house, correct?
Correct.
Nobody did seek to have a forensic team go inside the house and look,
Correct.
and nobody asked for consent.
Correct.
I want to ask you about the Sallyport video, if I could.
You can polish a turd, but it's still a turd.
Did you obtain a copy of any video surveillance footage from Canton Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. If you can, tell
Hey,
me
Bob.
which footage you
Welcome back.
obtained and where. And there's several videos,
Chip
Lieutenant,
shit.
that can be confusing. So if you could be as detailed as possible, explain what footage you gathered and when you gathered.
Most recently, and the date escapes me, but it's within the last couple of months, I had contacted Chief Helena Rafferty of the Canton Police Department and asked her to burn another copy or create another copy of the Sallyport video during a certain time period on January 29th to ensure that the video that we had received previously was all of the records responsive to that
Welcome.
request.
Hello.
And you found out that the video that you received earlier was
Oh.
not completely responsive because there was a video left out, right?
Really?
I
Well, there you go. Cocky little cue ball. I like it. That's a good one. Welcome to Tenacity for the Truth. We came up with some beauties yesterday. We've got Twat Waffle, Douche Canoe, Chip Shit. I came up with Peckerhead today, but no one found that in the chat. And then I thought of, we got Trooper Pooper and Ask Bandit. That's a good one. So if we can think of any more, put them in chat.
didn't do a one-to-one comparison. I just had made the request.
Ultimately, you did receive a video of the interior of the Sallyport, correct?
Yes.
And can you tell me, did you look at that? Did you review that video?
Quickly, not the whole thing.
Okay. Was there anything of note about that interior video? By the way, let me ask you another question, Lieutenant Tully, just to clarify. There's a very grainy, dark, almost black.
Cocky little cue balls going on the list, though.
Yes.
Or excerpts of it.
Yes.
And that video is missing some pretty significant time frames throughout the video.
I didn't review the whole thing, but I'm aware of that video existing.
Fair enough. Then there's another video that's pretty clear, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm asking you about the clear video. Did you make any note about anything unusual about that video?
No. But again, I didn't really review it.
You didn't review it with any detail?
Correct.
Did you make a note that that video was inverted?
I did not.
Did you make a note about the timestamp on the video either being correct and properly positioned or inverted?
No.
Did you give that video to Trooper Proctor?
I believe I gave it to Sergeant Buchanan.
Sergeant Buchanan? And then what did Sergeant Buchanan do with it?
Reviewed it.
Okay. Is that somehow uploaded onto the Massachusetts State Police computer system somehow for safekeeping?
No, we'll hold it within the DA's office on that server. You know, it's not touching the MSP.
Okay, so it is uploaded on some sort of server.
We will memorialize it somewhere, yes.
Did Chief Rafferty give it to you on a thumb drive or a disk, or how was it physically provided?
I don't know. I didn't receive it. She dropped it off at the office. I remember a thumb drive.
You remember a thumb drive, all right. And then it's uploaded onto the system, and the case officer would have access to that system.
Yes,
Okay. And in this case, that would be Trooper Proctor.
yes.
Did you notify Trooper Proctor, when I say immediately, reasonably quickly, after you received or after you got notice that the video had been dropped off by Chief Rafferty?
I informed Sergeant Buchanan.
Okay, and do you know, as you sit here, you may not.
He
as you
looks
sit
like
here, you
a-
know if Sergeant Buchanan
A human
reasonably
Tetri.
quickly inform Trooper Proctor that that video exists.
Bukaki,
I don't
that
know
is.
when or where that notification was made.
As you sit here now, you are aware that Trooper Proctor is aware of that video and had access to it?
Yes.
Yesterday, there
Stone-faced and focused.
was some testimony about taillight pieces.
Got
that
his
were found
balloon
at
in a
the
knot.
location, correct?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes. She's so quick. Yes. He might be Jewish, you never know.
Post the court magistrate for a question.
I miss half of the thing because I'm laughing too much at chat.
With the court's permission, I've asked for the evidence bags that were entered into evidence yesterday.
Okay. May take a minute.
So what I reckon, because it is a completely different approach now for oh, where did I go? Completely different approach that Jackson's got to use for this witness compared to yesterday. So he's, as I said, he's got to bring his A game. A game. So he's got to, instead of focusing on the witness's credibility and poking holes in that, because this man is so well presented, he's going to focus on poking holes in the investigation and the credibility of the investigation, which is very clever, in my opinion.
Before I get to the evidence bag, may I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Before I get to the evidence bag, Lieutenant Tully, one more or maybe a couple more questions about the Sally Port video. You indicated that you received additional video from Chief Rafferty once she dropped it off. You said within a couple of months.
Yeah. Additional that package, yes.
What was the original Sally Port video that you received? In other words, what were you following up on?
What you had previously described as a grainy black-ish video.
Okay, and so just to be clear and close that loop, when did you receive that video, if you can tell us?
Which one? The grainy one?
The Brady one.
Earlier in the investigation.
A year ago, 2 years ago?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you believe it was pretty early on in the investigation?
I don't recall.
Do you know what the mechanism was that you received that one? If Chief Rafferty is the one that gave over the clear video,
He's
how
given
did
him
you get
nothing, isn't he?
The grainy video.
I don't know.
Was it you that received it, or do you believe that you commissioned Trooper Proctor to go get that video?
It would have been a task for Sergeant Buchanan or Trooper Proctor or someone else from the unit.
So the reason you don't know is because you didn't personally do it.
Correct.
I don't understand how it got to trial, Bri.
Yesterday, you testified that it's obviously your responsibility as not just the chief of the unit, but as the evidence officer to maintain and protect the integrity of the physical evidence that's found under your supervision, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that you took photographs of the items that were recovered on that initial search, and you took those photographs in place where they were found, correct?
Yes.
With the exception of one of the photos, you indicated that it had been moved by a shovel, and then you instructed the
That's the first thing you would do. The first thing you would do. Everyone's got their phones in their hand, their pockets. You would automatically take a photo, automatically, unless you didn't want anyone to see it.
individual, put it back down where it was found, and then that's the point at which you photographed it, correct?
Yes.
You took an establishing shot, then a closer shot, and then I think even a third close-up shot.
Yeah.
correct?
No.
Yes.
And you indicated pretty
No
clearly
evidence
yesterday
markers. Nothing.
what the evidence that you found at the scene was a red plastic taillight piece that was recovered first. Then 3 feet or so to the south of that, the shoe was recovered. And then 1 to 2 feet south of that, another red plastic piece, and then a clear plastic piece next to that, correct?
Yeah, you get the last two inverted. It's clear, then red. But
Inversion, it's becoming a theme. Sorry about that. So it was a clear
So I'm going to strike that comment.
clear piece, and then a red piece next to the clear piece.
yes.
3 pieces of plastic in total.
Hopefully.
and a shoe.
No, there was with
Hopefully,
the clear
Abby.
piece, there was 2 pieces with it. So clear plastic, multiple pieces of the clear plastic.
Okay, so yesterday when
Hopefully, this might bring some light and possibly some change down the track. That's all we can hope for.
we saw the photographs that you testified to, there was one.
Yes,
piece of clear
yes.
plastic that was
This is the
photographed,
guy
correct?
that, yes. If you've watched Turtle Boy, they actually sit and wait for the school bus and then they drive straight to his driveway and arrest him in his driveway and then search his house and basically destroy all his house whilst he's arrested and put him in jail for 60 days. Yeah. Sorry. It's
Right?
I'll keep my
2.
fingers crossed for you, Gab.
Didn't the photograph have one sort of arc-shaped clear piece of
never
plastic
know.
that you described as having the, did you say dimples or stippling?
Yes, I think I said dimples.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what was the second photo?
Yeah.
The next photo that was displayed was the second piece of clear plastic taillight.
So in fact.
Yes, he
that would
did, and
be
it should have
4
been
pieces of
shut
plastic.
down then.
Yes.
Okay. But yesterday you testified that you found 3 pieces of plastic, and in your report, you reported that you found 3 pieces of plastic, correct?
I didn't number the piece of plastic, if I recall my report correctly. I said we found clear plastic. And as I displayed out of the bag, there was 2 pieces of clear plastic that we,
But there was only a photograph of 1,
no, there wasn't.
and your report says 3 total pieces of plastic, doesn't it?
No.
Let's take a look.
Do you have your report with you, Detective Lieutenant?
Not that one, Your Honor.
Okay.
So he's questioning Tully's the original evidence that was collected on the 29th of January in the evidence bags because in his report Tully said
Sure.
there was 2 red pieces of taillight, 1 clear and a shoe. That's why they've got the bags out. Yeah, Bev. Yeah. Because he didn't think he was going to get questioned on this, bro. This is old news. This is way back 29th of January. But they can't find the actual report just yet.
Jim, can I have those photographs from yesterday?
Hot mic.
Your Honor, is it possible we can take our recess so I don't waste the juror's time?
Yes,
I can use my
They
time.
do. They take a
Sure,
recess.
sure.
Let's go to. Hello, Bev. How you doing? Have a seat. Take a load off. Hello, Paul. Nitty. Kaz. Have a nice lunch. Haven't got salad in your teeth?
Sure, go right ahead.
Lieutenant Tully, we were talking just before the break about the search on January 29th, 2022. Obviously, it's important to be accurate in terms of the memorialization.
Actually, now you say that, Coffee Cafe, I'm surprised that, I suppose not in the moment you wouldn't have thought, but if someone had rung me and said, I'm coming to seize your car, I would have gone out and taken the photos myself, but she was probably too distressed to do that. You don't think in the moment, do you?
Of note during a search, correct?
Yes.
And the way that you normally
But then they could have
memorialize
destroyed
something like that would be
the
in a police
photos.
report, correct?
That's one method.
You
Yes.
might have personal handwritten notes that
I might.
would attend a search, correct?
Yes.
You might videotape part of it or all of it,
I could.
and then you could photo document it as well.
Yes.
You know what, Bri? That book still gets kept, but it's not called a murder book. It's called a You Owe Me. And that's what Brian Alberts used throughout this. That's my theory. He's him and Colin were involved, and the reason I say definitely Colin, because that's the only way you get the girls on side. Get the mums and the sisters and the aunties. That's the only way they'll protect their niece and their son. Brian's called in favours, and he's pretty much Higgins, the sleazy toad, is a witness or a what do you call it? An accessory after the fact, or whatever you want to call it. So he's seen what's happened, and so big Brian Albert's called in his favours. Higgins has gone off and done the shuffle at Canton PD and done the cleanup crew, and it went from there. That's my theory anyway.
The circumstances surrounding how something was found or what was found at the time is best done in a memorialization in a police report, correct?
That is one method. Yes.
And that is the official record of what was done at the time and who did it, correct?
Yes.
And you did, in fact, draft a police report as it pertains to the search that was done by the CERT team on January 29th, 2022.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Charmer?
Yes.
Yes.
If you would take a look
Hello,
at the
little bee.
page of
Good
that, tell me
morning.
if that looks
Welcome.
familiar to you.
Welcome
It
back.
does.
Is that your report that you
Lovely to see you.
utilized? Is that the report that you wrote, rather not utilized? Is that the report that you wrote documenting the search that was conducted that you've testified to in front of this jury?
Yes.
What's the date of that report?
February 10th, 2021, which was a typo, should be February 2022.
Okay, so February 10th, 2022.
Oh, another typo.
Was the date that you memorialized the information about the search, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, that
Very
was
well
much, much
for
closer
a
in time than
wintry
today,
Melbourne
correct?
eve.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yesterday.
How are you?
Correct.
Correct.
Isn't it?
If you turn to paragraph 3, could you review that paragraph and tell me, after you review it, if that refreshes your recollection about exactly what you indicated was found by you and the CERT team on January 29th, 2022?
My recollection of what was located remains the same. I do see that the report states that it was a piece of clear plastic.
Okay. So,
Excellent.
in fact, your report says that at approximately 17:45 hours, which is what time?
5:45 p.m.
The CERT team located, quote, a piece of red plastic, correct?
Yes.
And then it goes on to say it was consistent with brake light material from a motor vehicle, right?
Yes.
And if you look
Did anyone
down a couple of
notice,
other,
just
sentences,
out of interest, anyone seen a Lexus specialist anywhere that can justify or testify to the fact that these are actually bits of tail light from a Lexus? Maybe.
you talk about the
Good
shoe
morning,
that was
Danielle.
then recovered, correct?
Welcome.
Yes.
Oh, I've frozen. Frozen. Make silly faces.
And if you look at the second to the last sentence, a few feet
Yes.
south from the sneaker, a piece of clear plastic consistent
was
with the rear
gold.
limbs of a motor vehicle was located, correct?
Yeah, the quote is a second piece of red plastic. Yes.
Well, actually, the sentence before that, Sentence just above that, starting with a few feet south.
Now, remember what I said about the gloves?
Yes.
It reads, a few feet south from the sneaker, a piece of clear plastic.
That's not what it says. Would you like me to read it?
Oh,
Well, I'm reading it.
oh,
Sure,
I'm reading it.
Okay. The sentence is several feet south of the clear plastic.
Lieutenant Tully.
Sorry.
Sentence above that. Before that.
A few feet south of the sneaker, a piece of clear plastic consistent with clear lens of a motor vehicle was located.
Right. So in your lexicon, a piece means singular, does it not?
Yes.
If you meant pieces, you would have written pieces. You're educated,
Mm.
correct?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
So
Allegedly.
clearly, from this
You can
report,
smile.
that was memorialized on February 10th, you indicated that a piece of clear plastic was located consistent with clear lens from a motor vehicle, right?
That's what it says.
Okay. Then, well, it's not just what it says, it's what you wrote.
Correct.
Correct.
Mhm.
Then the next sentence, which is the sentence you were about to read, go ahead and read that for me as well.
Several feet south of the clear plastic, a second piece of red plastic was located.
Okay. Simple math. According to your report on February 10th, a piece of red plastic was found first. Then a piece
Of
of
clear
red
plastic.
of clear plastic was found. Then a piece
Of
of red
red.
plastic was found.
That's
thereafter,
3.
correct? According to that report.
Yes.
Then you go on in the following paragraph to reiterate, just to clear up any doubt about what was found. And the last sentence reads, the sneaker and 3 pieces of plastic were secured as evidence, correct?
Objection.
See, overruled, I don't know. What's the
Form.
no, I'll allow it.
Is that what it says?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
cocky little
yesterday,
cue
You
ball.
were asked to open these 2 evidence envelopes, correct? Yeah, evidence bags.
Could I take a look?
Oh, of course, yes. May I approach you on that?
Yes.
Sorry. 570, 571. Those are the bags that you opened yesterday, correct?
Yes.
You indicated yesterday in front of the jury, you didn't indicate, you pulled out 2 pieces of clear plastic, did you not?
I did.
That was in bag, I want to say that was in bag 570. Why don't we do this? Can you please open, with the court's permission, can you please open bag 570? I'm sorry, exhibit 570 in that bag, and just look inside.
I didn't bring gloves with me, Your Honor.
I
Is
think there might be some on the stand.
Oh,
there.
thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, eat it, fucker. Eat that shit. Eat that turd.
Yeah.
Attorney Jackson, could you just repeat your request again? Make sure I have it correct.
Of course, Lieutenant. Let's start with 570.
Okay.
I don't remember which one it is, so if you could just open
It's
it
almost
and
like
look
play
in-
school. And today we're going to look through the round window. Yes, Sesame Street. That's it.
inside and describe for us which items are inside that bag.
So 570, the description is pieces of red hard plastic taillight cover contained inside this bag.
Look down in there and tell me, do you see red plastic pieces?
Yes.
Okay. Yesterday, you
Yes,
pulled out
I
2
did.
pieces and indicated that's what the
I did.
what is contained in the bag, correct?
Correct.
Take another closer look.
As I take a closer look, there are 2 pieces and there is a very small fragment that remains in the bag.
Can you pull that fragment out as well?
Just you put gloves on, but you've thrown it on the desk
Show that
with
to the jury.
how many people have testified?
Okay, you can go ahead and replace that. So in total,
Now-
Lieutenant Tully,
Having watched the Glera present this, he actually has a piece of that tail light, not from that tail light, but he has a piece of the tail light from Alexis, and he tried to snap one. He could not even, and he's a muscly dude. He could not break it in half. There was no way that he could even snap a tiny piece off a piece of that plastic. He said it's just so tough.
How many pieces
So,
of red plastic?
it couldn't
are
have
in
just
that evidence bag?
Broken
As we
off
sit
that.
here today, there are 3.
Thank you. Go ahead and close that. And we can open up the second bag. I'll go ahead with the court's permission. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I?
Yes.
If you wouldn't
Yes.
mind, the next bag is Exhibit 571, is that right?
Yes.
Could you please open that and let's go through the same process? Just look inside and tell us what you see.
Inside 571, there are 2 pieces of clear plastic.
You can go and replace those.
Would laugh if someone went, boop.
May I approach? Yes.
So he's getting him on the
Thank you,
the
Lieutenant.
details.
Those 2 bags are supposed to represent what was found by the CERT team on
Yes.
January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
There's no way that
5
little bit
pieces
broke off on its own.
Of plastic, 2 red. Sorry.
What
2
did I
red,
miss? What did George
2
say?
clear, correct?
As we sit here today, yes.
My question, Lieutenant Tully, is where did the other pieces of plastic come from?
Be more specific? Which pieces?
Where did the extra 2 pieces of plastic?
Don't know what happened there.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Those 2 bags are supposed to represent what was found by the CERT team on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
There's 5 pieces of plastic, 2 red.
3 red,
3 red, 2
2
clear,
white.
correct?
Oh, clear.
As we sit here today, yes.
As we sit here today.
My
What, we're going to
question,
sit there
Lieutenant
tomorrow?
Tully, is
We're
where
gonna
did the other
change?
pieces of plastic come from?
Be more specific? Which pieces?
Where did the extra 2 pieces of
Yeah.
plastic come from in those evidence bags?
Well, it appears to me that small fragment I pulled out may have potentially come from the larger piece. The other,
Oh, shit.
Just to clear that up, you believe, as you sit here, that smaller piece was broken off from one
Oh,
of the larger pieces?
shut.
again, I'm making a big
Here's the
assumption
thing.
here
Asshole.
at your request.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what it appears to me by looking in the bag.
And by the way, Lieutenant, this isn't a trick question. I'm not asking you to assume anything. You were there and you recovered the pieces and you described recovering 3 items of evidence, correct?
No.
I know.
You should just read
I
the
know.
report. I'll read it again. Last
Thanks
sentence.
for that,
The
Bob.
sneaker and 3 pieces of plastic were secured as evidence.
That's
You wrote
4.
them.
That's 4.
Sorry, I said items of evidence. Items of plastic. Let's leave
Oh,
the sneaker out
split
of our discussion
hairs.
for the time being.
Fuck.
You were the one that conducted the search, correct?
The CERT team conducted the search. I was
You
present.
memorialized the search.
Yes.
You were there photographing the things that were covered in the search,
Yes.
and ultimately you were responsible for bagging those items up. correct?
Yes.
Yes.
There are 5 items in that bag, or in those 2 bags, right? Just the plastic.
Correct.
He almost looks like Homer Simpson.
And yet your report very clearly says there were 3 items of plastic evidence recovered at the scene, correct?
Does.
So my question, once again, is where did the extra 2 items come from? The pieces of plastic.
Well, as memorialized on the bag, it says pieces of clear plastic. So I'll take the hit that my report does not properly memorialize it. But I would argue that the handwritten notes on the bag that are contemporaneous to the collection of the evidence
Contemporaneous.
would be more accurate, as is in my memory of 2 clear plastic things being collected. Now, as
How
to the
about-
third piece, again,
I can't
I'm
count.
making an assumption, but it appears that that is a small piece that was separated from the other 2 pieces.
Bullshit.
You don't know that that small piece is separated from the other 2 by being broken off, do you?
No, I don't.
Just a guess on your part, right?
It's a guess. The bags were, out of our custody at the crime lab for a period of time. They had
Oh,
done an
yeah.
analysis.
Point the
We did an
finger
evidence
elsewhere.
review with you, yourself, and the defense counsel on December 1st of last year, where we pulled all the evidence out. It was memorialized by your investigator, and
Listen to Jackson.
it was put back in the bags.
You didn't see our investigator snapping pieces off the plastic, right?
He did not.
No, no. Oh,
I want to shift gears for a second, Lieutenant, and talk a little bit about the cell records that you testified to.
oh, now talk
Specifically
about a
the
word
Verizon
salad.
Call records that you testified about during your training, the 200 plus hours of training that you had. You've learned how to read Verizon records to determine cell towers that are used in your investigation, correct?
Yes.
You were also taught how to read Verizon call records to determine the sector or the side that a cell tower is pinging, for lack of a better word, called a cell face, correct?
Yes.
All right. One of the May I approach? No?
Yes.
Thank you. May I, Lieutenant? One of the documents that you rely on pretty heavily is ultimately it's a call record that gives you certain information provided by the whoever the carrier is, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever, right?
Yes.
Do you recognize the document that's in front of you or the portion of the call record that's in front of you?
It appears to be a portion from the call detail records we referenced earlier.
Okay. My questions about this are relatively simple. There is a sector number that provides information
Maybe for you.
that describes the directionality, if you will, of the target phone number, which part of the cell tower that target phone number or that target device was facing, correct?
Yes.
In your maps, did you include any of the cell face data about which portion of the cell tower was pinging vis-a-vis the phone that was being tracked?
No. Can I explain why I made that decision?
Please do.
When the trouble with depicting and making exhibits when relative to cell phone records is you don't want to make the map too complicated. So as I describe it to the jury, I want to make sure that the record is clear. Now, I don't typically will use the sector as part of my maps. I would argue that it gives greater deference to the defendant because the phone could be anywhere within a 360-degree area of the antenna opposed to a narrower 120-degree area around that antenna. So for the purposes of making a clear depiction, I typically will not use sector unless it's absolutely important to show that a handset was in a specific location.
And so you did use, I'm sorry. You
Isn't
did,
that the purpose?
not include the sector information on the maps that you provided.
Don't
both
you
in
want to
Solana
find
and
it in a
Sugar
specific
Creek
location?
files, correct?
Yes, whereas relative to the CSLI ones, yes.
So in point of fact, according to the map at least, wherever that little triangle is, that red triangle that you
Yeah.
use to denote the cell tower or antenna, the responsive phone, the device, be anywhere on a 360-degree azimuth from that antenna.
I reckon.
correct?
Yes.
I reckon Jackson has sat for days with a Celebrite expert to get this down pat. Days. Crotch bag. That's going on the list.
I want to ask you about the one map that was related to 5:20 a.m. to 5:37 a.m.
No.
Remember that?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. There were several maps shown.
That's why I didn't make anyone sit through Lali's
Can I approach?
direct.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Isn't
That's
that
a
the whole
copy
point?
of a page of an exhibit that's already been marked and entered into evidence. You recognize that?
Yes.
And that's a copy of your map that you did dealing with ENBID 57021, correct?
Yes.
And the time frame was 5:20 a.m. to 5:37 a.m. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And by the way,
I am playing this
do you know what
because
ENBI?
there is a point.
ENBI,
he has a point to make, and he does get there. Yeah. eventually, but there is a point. Otherwise, I would have skipped it.
ID stands for?
No, that's why the legend key is helpful. I've taught it's node is the NB, but I'm unsure on the E.
Evolved Node B identifier, right?
Is that a question? Yeah, that's possible. Yes.
It is my question.
Okay.
Refresh your recollection, that's what it means.
I'd have to look at the key again, but that sounds right.
So an evolved, if that's what it stands for, an evolved Node B identifier, and then a
It's like, how the
series of
fuck
numbers
did he
after
know that?
is simply sort of the proper name for a particular tower.
Correct.
No two towers have the same ENB ID, correct?
Oh, now you're showing off, Jackson.
Correct.
Okay. With regard to, and I'm just going to call it ID 57021. Do you see what appears to be, on your map, what appears to be the cell tower that is associated with that ID number, 57021?
Yes.
Okay, and there's one address that's denoted on your map, correct? Is that 34 Fairview?
No, there's multiple.
Okay, what are the other addresses that you noted on your map?
One Meadows Ave and Waterfall Bar and Grill.
Okay. May I approach you on?
Yes.
Yes. I think the feds are, they won't do anything whilst the trial's on. They'll wait until the trial is over, and that's when shit will happen. That's what I think, anyway.
If I could hand you another map, does that appear to be a Google map?
Yes.
Does that generally track the map that you created, the darker map you created? Meaning it's the same basic scale?
It is not the same scale.
How much different is that scale?
The one you handed me is a zoomed in version of the map I created.
Okay, you recognize it as being relative, a true and accurate reflection of a Google map that's just zoomed in a little bit on the same basic area?
Don't ask him that.
As you
gonna
just
argue
described, it appears to be Google Map
Okay,
creation.
and you see two addresses that are denoted on that Google map?
Yes.
What are those two addresses?
34 Fairview Road and 12 Country Lane.
And as you look at that Google map with both of those, given your experience with both of those addresses, do those appear to be denoted accurately on that Google map?
It does. I would note that you can't see the roads really on this map that you handed me.
Understood. I'm not going to ask you a question
It's
about
kind of it's a white blur. So it,
But does it look like that's where 34 Fairview is and that's where 12 Country Lane?
yeah,
Okay, then I'm going to ask you for the third item that's denoted on the map, and that is the cell tower 57021. You see that denoted on the map?
yes,
Does that appear to be generally accurate in terms of the spatial location of where that cell tower is?
yes.
Move for the admission of that item, that document.
It's like pulling teeth
Objection.
from a thumb. His wife asks him what's for dinner. What would you like for dinner? What his answer would be.
Thank you. Taking a look at that exhibit, would you agree that the cell tower 57021 is significantly closer to what's denoted as 12 Country Lane, the McCabe residence, physically?
It's
as
good,
opposed
isn't it?
wise, than it is to 34 Fairview?
I would not characterize it as significant.
How would you characterize it?
That it is closer.
Okay. May I publish, Sean?
Okay.
So he agrees that it's closer, but not significantly closer. Peck ahead.
Just a second. Take a look at the upper portion, upper right portion of the map that I just highlighted. What does that denote?
The cell tower that we previously mentioned, 57021.
Okay. And then there's a line it's a straight line from that cell tower down to this location.
All the way to the bottom of the jar.
It's denoted on this exhibit as 34 Fairview Road.
Okay. And do you see a legend indicating scale? How far that is?
Or out of your nose.
I see numbers and miles written on there.
Does that appear to be reflective of given your understanding and your experience with this location or these locations, does that appear to be a relatively accurate delineation of the distance between the cell tower and that location, and that address?
I don't know the distance between the cell tower and the address off the top of my head.
Would you agree that it's around 2 miles?
It's roughly 2 miles.
Okay. Then I'm going to ask you to take a look at the same.
Would you
proximity.
agree that your asshole
Cell
has
tower
hair on it?
top of The screen,
Perhaps 10
and
sprouts.
then the address
Maybe
of
15.
12 Country Lane. You see those 2 items denoted on the map?
Yes.
And do you see the approximate distance between those 2 items?
See it on the map?
All right. And does it appear to you that the distance from 12 Country Lane looks like it's less than half the distance to 34 Fairview?
I wouldn't characterize it as appears to be less than half.
How would you characterize
Of course you wouldn't.
My understanding of that area, I would say it's at least a mile between
I
those 2
would-
locations.
I wouldn't characterize this dinner as corned beef. No, it's Silverside.
As the crow flies?
Okay, meaning between the cell tower and 12 Country Lane,
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
And it indicates approximately a mile, correct?
it does indicate that.
Okay. And the other location indicates approximately 2.4 miles, right?
It does indicate that.
All right. So would you agree that a mile is less than half of 2.4 miles?
I would agree a mile is less than half than 2.4.
Thank you.
That's big of you.
You also noted that there were two cell towers much closer to 34. There are 2 cell towers much closer to 34 Fairview than the 57021, correct?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, you already noted that for the jurors that say at 6 a.m. or 6:05 a.m. and thereafter, when it's clear that Ms. Reed was at 34 Fairview, she found the body of John O'Keefe, that her phone was relaying to those 2 towers varies, bouncing back and forth, correct?
Yes.
Those 2 towers are 57171, correct? Sorry, I don't mean to test your memory like that. I can. Can I approach?
Yes.
Apparently they look a lot smaller
I'm just going to give you that packet.
in
Lieutenant.
real life.
Like I said, it's not a memory
when you're
test.
there.
That helps refresh your recollection of the name of the 2 towers closest to 34.
We could get Gabby and Brian to go and take photos for us, but
Do you have that in mind?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the 2 towers closest to
Vision
34
sheets.
Fairview are 57171, correct?
Yes.
And
have you seen
572
Runkle? Has anyone watched Runkle of the Bailey? He calls it pigeon business. All the bullshit is pigeon business.
86, is that right?
Yes.
And both of those towers picked up Miss Reed's signal at 12:33 a.m. and again after 6:03 a.m., correct?
You asked me about 1233, so if it's okay, I'm going to refer back in the exhibit,
Of course.
and that is correct. It hit the 57171.
And then after 6 a.m., it was also picking up, bouncing, I think you said bouncing back and forth between 57171 and 57286.
Yes.
Both of those towers were picking up.
Yes.
Importantly, though, between 5:20 and 5:37 a.m.,
Sorry. I just got an email from AJ, Gabby. She was lurking quietly in the shadows this morning. She's been up all night with one of her dogs who's petrified of storms, so she only had a couple of hours of broken sleep. And she said, by the way, I was watching when Gabby and George made their comments. I'll deal with them later.
neither of those 2 towers ever
So there.
picked up her phone or any signal from her phone, correct?
Correct.
So based on those facts, it's far more likely that Karen Reed was actually at Jennifer McCabe's and on her way to Jennifer McCabe's at and around 5 a.m. than going to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You in trouble now.
May I approach this to retrieve?
Sure.
I don't know where George has gone.
I just want to make sure that we the mark.
Oh, I'm sorry. That goes with that, I
Oh,
believe.
I wondered what I
Oh,
missed.
You handed me that. Here's the marked item.
Perfect.
There were 2 other documents you had handed me previously that are not marked.
Thank you, Rod.
Oh, so he's telling Jackson how to mark his evidence when he can't count
I just want to touch very briefly on the ranging data, the RTT records. What does RTT stand for?
Depends on who you ask from Verizon, either range to tower or round trip time.
Have you ever heard real-time tool?
I have.
Okay, so that's the RTT has several acronyms, but real-time tool is one of them, correct?
Yes.
The RTT data is what you earlier described as a ranging data or access distance, correct?
I didn't use the term access distance. I know that Verizon may, but I said ranging.
So it's just in common vernacular, it's distance from the tower or from the antenna to where the signal is going, correct?
Yes.
All right. May I approach one more time?
Yes.
Yes.
Could you please review that and tell me if you recognize what's depicted on that document?
I recognize to be one of the entries from the RTT report for the account we're talking about.
I'm sorry. And it's around 5:18 in the morning, correct?
No,
Yes.
Okay.
he got
and
it
you
wrong,
utilize
right?
this report
He's a tool in real time.
or portions of this report, including this entry, to come up with your data, especially as it relates to ranging data, correct?
Yes.
Do you see the column on that document called cross duration sex, right? Procedure duration sex.
I do.
Come on,
does that
Jackson,
mean?
get on with it.
That is
Get to the
the
point.
amount of time in which this communication occurred.
Okay. Am I correct in understanding that the length of time for the RTT event is calculated in seconds, correct?
It is.
All right.
I know,
Do
it
you
was
see
good,
the
right?
row in the exhibit that indicates the time 5:18
I'm here all
a.m.?
night.
Yes.
And you see a column that's labeled procedure start time.
Yes.
And right next to it, there's a procedure end time, correct?
Yes.
Are those the start times and the end times that you earlier testified to in front of the jury about the event in question at 5:18 a.m. or thereabouts, the start of the interaction or the communication with the device and the end of the communication with the device?
Yes.
When you say communication with the device, what does that mean? What are you referring to?
It,
A phone call, a text, something?
we don't know. As I testified to, the ranging reports will create entries even unbeknownst to the user. So I have no information with this record before me about what the user was or was not doing with the phone.
But your testimony is that those two arcs that we saw, those respective arcs that we saw, your testimony is that this RTT data, in your view, establishes that she was on the device, not she, but the device was on the first arc at the start time, and it was on the second arc at the end time.
I'm going off the ranging that they give me.
And then you created those two arcs. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what the definition of those two arcs are in your map.
The definition comes from the first distance and last distance, which is denoted on this exhibit you have in front of me here.
Okay, and the first distance is what?
0.82 miles.
Okay, and the second distance is, from memory, I think it's 0.97?
Correct.
That's a difference of what? We do the math.
1.5 miles.
0.15 miles, correct?
Excuse me. Yes.
Okay. And do you see the procedural duration column indicated on that document?
I do.
Okay. And the procedure duration column indicates 0, doesn't it?
Yes.
However, if we look very closely at the start time and the end time, they're not actually the same times, are they?
Correct.
There's a difference in those two times. Can you tell the jurors what that difference is?
It is 4 thousandths of a second.
0.004 seconds, correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
you
now they
testified
start
that
doing
you believe
maths.
that the start and
This is
end
where they lose
distances
me.
for the RTT event in question indicate two different locations for that device. In other words, the start time, it was on the first arc. The end time, it was on the second arc. You don't know where on the arc, but somewhere on those two arcs.
Using the ranging data, I created a map,
I
and
understand.
that's what I did.
Okay, and so the device would have moved from the first arc to the second arc, correct?
Yes.
You're familiar with, obviously, the formula to determine speed using distance and time. correct?
Yes.
Can you calculate for us the speed that the device would have traveled to go from the first arc to the second arc over a distance of 0.15 miles in 4,000ths of a second?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Let me see if I can help. So distance,
Of course
sorry,
you can
speed
help.
is calculated as distance divided by time, right?
Yes.
If you divide 0.15 miles by 4,000ths of a second, you come up with 37.5 miles per second. Would you agree?
Objection.
Sustained.
Can you do the calculation in your head?
No, sir.
Do you need a calculator?
I would.
Your Honor, if,
I'd like to
I
see.
just saw your
Counselor
message,
Tapman,
Brian.
please.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And I'm organized tonight. I've got my thermos. But given that I've got my thermos, I'll probably have to get up instead of making a cup of tea. I'll break the seal.
Using the ranging data, I created a map,
I
and
understand.
that's what I did.
Okay, and so the device would have moved
back.
from the first.
How about, can you use Madam Court Reporter's cell phone and do that? She's closest.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Can you use Madam
Thank you,
Court
Madam Court
Reporter's
Reporter.
Thank
phone?
you, Your Honor.
She's
If you could
closer.
divide 0.15 by 0.004,
So the point
let me know what you come up with.
37 point.
the point that Jackson's trying to make is that Tully has put these two arcs on this map, and it's showing Karen's location within that arc, or within those two arcs, at two different points of time. And Jackson is trying to show how long it would take to get from the first point to the second point. And so he's working out the time according to the formula of what it should be in relation to the points that Tully has put on his map of when the cell phone pings. That's the point he's getting to is related to that.
5.
So that would be, given the
That's why they're
fact
doing
that
this
the
math.
distance as calculated,
That's
as,
why my
as
head's about to
indicated on
explode.
that record, the distance is 0.15 miles over the course of 0.004 seconds, right?
No, I would push back as to
I
the
would push back.
when the distance was being created. That's the first distance and last distance.
Correct. What you indicated was the cell phone or the device was on the first arc during the first time, and the start time, and on the second arc at the end time. All I'm asking is some basic math. So you would agree that if the calculation we just did, or you just did, is 0.15 miles divided by 4,000ths of a second, that is 37.5 miles per second, to stay consistent, miles per second, correct?
What? I don't agree with the premise of the question. So
Well, you don't have to agree with the premise of the question. I'm asking you about the math.
the math is correct. Yes.
The math is correct. Right? It's miles per second, correct?
Yes.
Based on that calculation. In order to get to miles per minute, you multiply it by 60, correct?
Yes.
Can you do that for me, please?
Madam Clerk.
Jacko's face.
The question again, sir. I'm sorry.
Yes. Multiplying 37.5 times 60 would give us miles per minute. What is that number?
2,250.
And if we wanted to go to miles per hour, which we're more familiar with,
Times by
multiply it
60
by 60
again.
again, wouldn't you?
And
And what's that number?
1,035,000. Excuse me. Sorry. 135,000.
135,000
1,000
per hour,
miles
correct?
per hour.
Yes.
So you would agree, if the premise is moving from the arc, the first arc, moving 0.15 miles to the second arc over the course of 0.004 seconds, the device would have to be traveling 135,000 miles per hour, correct?
In your question, you said
And-
1.5 miles travel.
Pause.
It's 0.15 miles.
Pause.
You corrected me. I'm going to throw it back at you, sir.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Okay. 0.15 miles over the course of 0.004 seconds, the device would have to be traveling 135,000 miles per hour.
He's an
Basically,
arrogant
correct?
While
little
I agree with that, I would push
fucking
back. That's
gooball.
probably not what the record is indicating.
You would agree that that is physically impossible, correct?
Yeah.
For a cell
So-
phone, yes.
Right.
Yes. In
And
other
you would
words,
also agree
your report means shit. Jack shit. Nothing. Zip. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. Fuck the arc. It's worthless. Round over.
that since that's impossible, you're not suggesting to this jury that
Yeah.
the device moved from arc 1 to arc 2 in 4,000ths of a second. That
I'm-
can't be what you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting that.
Okay. In fact, what actually makes more sense is that the signal was moving to and from the device at light speed, 186,000 miles per second.
It does. Radio
Radio
Ooh.
waves move it at what?
speed of light.
Speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you indicated on direct
Yeah,
examination,
eat it, fucker. Eat that shit. Eat that turd.
Bird. Oh, sorry.
if that return signal, the bounce, is in any way refracted,
Oh,
it takes a
refracted.
deviation. It's not straight because of something like, I
Deviation.
don't know, weather,
Snow.
precipitation, or snow, then
Precipitation.
it would take longer to get back to the antenna, correct?
That's fair.
And that could be what's reflected in that map and the distance of the two arcs. Isn't that correct?
That's not my experience with these records.
But
Of course,
you
he's going to
agree
disagree
that
with
in
you.
fact, the device, as you indicated earlier,
Yes.
moved from arc 1 to arc 2 from the start time to
Look at
end
the
time.
ears.
That's impossible.
No, I'm saying that the records reflect that the first time the distance was created, marked, and the second time the distance was marked, that's what's represented on the map.
Right, but you said that those are reflective of the start time and the end time, which is 4,000ths of a second apart.
No, I don't know that's when these distances were created. It doesn't say start of procedure
You
distance.
made
It
it.
says first distance, last distance.
Actually, it says,
I know it sounds pedantic, but Jackson has to do this.
see if I got the copy of it.
That's the only way he's
Fair approach.
going
Yes.
to poke holes in his credibility. It's the only way, because this guy is so adamant on the details.
Procedure start time, 5:18 and 19 seconds, 0.154, right?
Yes.
And Jackson won't give up.
End time,
He's like a little
5:18,
fox terrier
19
nipping at your
seconds,
heels.
0.158, right?
Yes.
That's the difference. May I approach one more time? Yes. That's the difference. And that's the 4,000ths of a second difference, correct?
Yes.
And on direct examination, you said the start time and the end time are how you calculated the two different arcs.
No.
Correct?
No.
Are you changing your testimony?
No, the map says first and last, as reflected in the record, first distance and last distance. So one could hold the map and this record next to each other and figure out how I determined those locations depicted on the map. It doesn't say start and end time. It says first and last.
Right. But
If you ain't first, you're last.
you said that it was the beginning of the communication and the end of the communication, which are both reflected on that document.
Talladega Nights,
The
Yes.
Start time.
one of my
the end time.
faves.
I understand what you're saying about the distance, 0.15. Nobody's arguing about that. You're saying, you said on direct examination that the distance was a difference between what time the first arc occurred and what time the second arc occurred. And there was a distance between it. And your testimony was the device moved from the first arc to the second arc. You just said it, right?
I'm saying the device moved from the first arc to the second arc. Yes.
And it would be impossible to do that in 4,000ths of a second, correct?
A cell phone, yes.
You did one last issue, and I'm gonna
Did you
deviate
hear
from the cell tower stuff.
Jackson sigh then?
You got information during the course of your investigation
Shake and bake.
that eyewitnesses,
Shake
an
and bake.
eyewitness placed a
I'm
fourth
the magic
edge
man.
in
Oh,
front of 34 Fairview.
that's our mannequin name. Magic Man. Now you see me. No, you don't. It's a Sally Port.
in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, correct?
I'm familiar with that.
As the supervising investigator, by the way, you were familiar with the fact that the eyewitness, placed that Ford Edge being, sorry, see if I can start that over.
Ford Edge.
The eyewitness indicated that the Ford Edge was placed there sometime between
This is the only time I've heard them actually bring up this Ford Edge. The only time.
2:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the morning, correct?
I'm familiar with that.
All right. As the supervising investigator, did you do anything to investigate the circumstances of that Ford Edge being placed in front of 34 Fairview sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning?
Yes.
What did you do?
Well, we determined the veracity of that statement, and we want to make sure that the person who gave it is consistent and accurate and had a good vantage point of it. I have concerns about,
By the way,
oh.
were you satisfied with that?
no.
Why not?
Well, the person has given the statement multiple times, and it appears to have changed over those
Yeah.
times.
Hang on. Welcome, IDK James, is it? Or I don't know, James. Hope I didn't bugger that one up. I just directed, yeah. A cell GPS is only accurate to 64 foot technically, though it's better with data. Okay, I don't understand all of that, but I'm going with the not guilty. I agree. And welcome. But this annoyed me, this bit of the testimony, because he out and out just, oh, you can listen.
It also appears that the
Made me
person
mad.
observed this vehicle from a distance.
He's talking
And also
about
the
Lucky
identification
Loughran.
of a Ford Edge seemed highly suggestive the way that I had read the account of it. If I had done that as a police officer, this court would throw out that identification.
So, did you find out anybody in the Albert family, for instance, on the Ford Edge?
They do.
I don't recall off the top of my head if somebody,
Did you look at automobile registration records?
I did not know.
Did you task anybody else to look at automobile registration records?
No.
I believe Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Mechanic had investigated that.
No, they
Do you
didn't.
have any idea what that investigation revealed?
I don't.
Did the Alberts own a Ford Edge?
I don't know as I sit here.
They did own a Ford Edge, didn't they?
Yeah.
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
Why?
But nothing was done further that you're aware of to investigate the circumstances of that Ford Edge being seen and placed in front of 34 Fairview, right where the body was found, between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning, right?
An investigation into the reliability of that witness was conducted.
So you just decided, and that
Oh.
investigation.
So instead of-
is,
Instead of investigating the Ford Edge, they investigate the credibility of the person that reported seeing that, which is the plow driver. Okay, so sure, do that, but why not do both? Why ignore the Ford Edge? Why not just try and, cut the credibility down of a viable witness who is completely independent? Completely independent. Why would you do that? Why? Why?
I didn't believe him.
Just why?
No.
Oh, yes. I want the ME to come on.
That's all I have.
And I think we're, no, we
briefly.
don't want to do redirect. I think we're slowly getting there, because we're not doing Lali's redirect because we'll do recross, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more witnesses today, but I'll go through them in a second. We'll do recross. No. Recross. Recross. Oh, play.
On your map,
Be helpful.
you also put on the map 5:18 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Where'd you get that number?
From the procedure start and end time.
So you did use the procedure start time. and end time,
Yes.
correct?
To denote the time, but not, to denote the time on the slide. Yes.
Time of the event, correct?
Yes.
All right, so the 5:18 dash
Yes,
19
that's-
sorry, 5:18
That's
and-
what Jackson was saying. He was saying that the signal is not accurate because it was snowing. So the signal would have been that speed would have been delayed because of precipitation, basically. That's what Jackson was
19
saying.
Seconds, and then I don't have it in front of me, but 0.154, I think.
But Tully would have none of it.
Yes.
That was the time that you used to establish that the device was on the first arc, correct?
No, I didn't use it to establish the arc. I used the distance to establish the arc, and I placed the time on the slide.
Oh,
What time? Lieutenant
look at
Tully?
his face.
5:18.
The time that Verizon gave you as the start time, correct?
Yeah, they're both 5:18.
So there's a start time
Yes.
and a start distance from the tower.
Yes.
In other words, the event took place at this distance
At this
time
time.
starting, correct?
No, you're using the wrong words. It says first distance.
I'm
Oh.
not.
Yes, sir. You said start distance. It's first distance.
Okay, fine. Okay, pick the words. First distance. Start time and first distance, correct?
Yes,
Then
those are on the record.
Right. Then Verizon gives you an end time, correct?
Yes,
And last distance, correct? And you created your arc based on the start time and first distance versus the end time and last distance, correct?
Did anyone hear the outcome of that, the motion from the Commonwealth to suppress these witnesses? Has Bev addressed that yet? And we haven't seen any of the voir dire of the witnesses coming up from Philadelphia as well, have we? I thought that had to be done this week. I'm sure she said that. Maybe I'm going
no,
crazy.
the time weren't associated.
You're saying no is because that would require the device to travel at 135,000 miles an hour.
Objection. If the witness could please answer the question.
So let him finish,
Okay, sure.
and then the objection to that is sustained. You can ask it differently.
Go ahead.
The times were not part of the depiction of the range. While I will suggest to you that it is probably unbelievable that those are actually start and end times. What I'm saying is we don't know for certainty that that is the exact time, the first distance and the last
You keep lying and delaying and being a complete clusterfuck.
distance. I'd have to look back at the records, but I also say that we have corroborating evidence to say that that is accurate.
So you'd have to look back at the records, correct?
Yes.
That is your record.
No,
That's
the-
what that is.
The record's key.
And where's the records key?
They were provided by Verizon.
Where are they, sir?
I don't have them in front of me.
Right. That's all.
Okay,
May we approach this briefly?
okay. Don't leave yet, Detective.
Yes, I actually did a bit of research on that myself, Coffee Cafe. Let me see if I can find. I did where are they? Was it this one? Oop. Oop. Hang on. Let me see if I can bring it up. Graphic content warning too, just FYI. So these were the people in the house. There were the cars. This was a presentation I did, but it included the dog bites. Now, this I prepared for my theory on what happened. All right. So this is the actual downstairs area at 34 Fairview at Brian Albert's place. So he's got the weight room set up there. And I've put that picture of the laceration to John's head there because part of my theory was that Brian Albert, Colin Albert, and Brian Higgins were all downstairs in this man cavey weight room, And I believe John's entered the house. He's gone downstairs. That's one flight of stairs. Said hi to the boys. Oh, bugger, I forgot my beer. gone back upstairs, grab a beer, run back downstairs, and either an argument has broken out, or I thought maybe even he's run down the stairs too quickly, and Chloe may have overreacted to that and started gnawing on his arm, and he's kicked the dog or punched the dog or whatever, which would indicate why he had the defensive wounds on his on the back of his hand. And for that, either Colin or Brian have stepped in and clocked him one, and he's fallen back onto one of these weight supports, so the arms poking out, and that's hit him in the head, and that's pretty much knocked him unconscious, but he's slumped down then because remember, he had the vomit on his boxer shorts and on his jeans only. So if he had been laying on his back like he was found on the lawn and vomited, which a concussion like that and a head injury can cause vomiting and normally do, he would have aspirated, so he would have choked on it. It would have been in his lungs, but his lungs were clear. So if he had hit his head on, say, one of these metal bars, which is a perfect size for that laceration, slumped down into a half-seated position and commenced the vomiting onto his jeans and what have you, which would explain that. The flight of stairs is explained because he's gone down and then gone up to get a beer and gone down again. The dog bite on his arms explained. And then the 36 steps that are recorded at 12:34, I believe, is him having a seizure with the phone in his hand. And at that point, everyone's freaking out. And that's why I believe Brian Higgins is now an accessory to the fact. And Colin and Brian are responsible in some way, shape or form for John either being pushed or punched, because that wound there can be called there's a name for it, but it's basically that much force that has hit the back of his skull. It basically provides enough force for the brain to be pushed forward, and all the pressure hit the front part of his skull, which would explain the all the bruising in behind his eyes. Does that make sense? I did say it better in my actual video that I did up on it, but it's a contra coup. That's right, contra coup injury. So the amount of force that it took that hit his head bounced his brain to the front of the skull where the impact hit, and that's what caused the significant bruising to behind the eyes and the swelling. He may well have been hit in the face as well, but that's because the only way for me, because I thought surely the girls wouldn't, like Julie and Nicole and what's her face, dog face, Jen McCabe, you wouldn't be able to get the girls on side unless they were protecting Colin. That's who I think they're protecting. Being such a close-knit family, that's the only way I would believe that you'd get the girls on side to cover this up. And then Brian, as I said, it's called in his favours for Brian Higgins. Higgins has gone off, done his little cleanup and set up everything. That's why he went to Canton PD, spent the whole day there. Why would you do that on a Sunday or on your day off? It was beyond me. And that's set everything in. That's my theory, basically. And you've got to remember, at the time, Brian Albert, he's retired now, but he was a bit of a big knob in the PD, and he was also on Boston PD, so relatively infamous. He's been on TV, so pretty well known. and probably has that little black book of IOUs, and it's the culture of that, old boys club that, might be in play here. That's my theory anyway. That's my opinion. I can't do. I missed that one. Whatever. I'll go back. Oop. So your brother was attacked by a German Shepherd. Yeah. So I'll go on to there's some more photos on here. Go back. Keep going. Oh, yes, this is my theory. So, yeah. Brian and Nicole. Because remember, Lank goes into the house that morning, but if they're all if this all happened downstairs, they would have just had to close that door off to the kitchen. I've got the floor plan. Close that door off to the kitchen and no one would be the wiser. Leave Chloe downstairs. And remember, they redid the whole basement floor. I think, was it 2 weeks or so after this incident as well? And then they sold the house as well, and the dog goes. So, what was this one? You should have said, what, if anything, did you? Yes. Predictive text. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I did put a lot of time into it, but I did a whole video on it a couple of weeks back, but a little delayed, but yeah, delayed. So. Yeah, this guy was just not going to agree with any single word that Alan was putting out. Not one. Not one. He was set to argue with absolutely everything. Yes, I actually saw that, and part of those pictures are in this. Excuse me. That's the marks in the snow where John's body was found. But you see, let's go back a bit. If you've got a head wound that size, this part, the two pictures on the right are where John's head was. And if you've got a head wound that size, anyone knows a head wound bleeds like a stuck pig. And that does not suggest to me that there is a lot of blood lost there. And the emergency room doctor, Dr. Rice, said that he had lost pretty much 2/3 of his blood volume. Now, you have 5 liters of blood volume in a normal average size adult. So that's 3 liters. I don't see 3 liters there for a start. It would have, in the snow, congealed like jelly. Next one. Let's go. Keep going to the next one. Oh, that's the crime scene the next morning. So wasn't even secured. And this is the pre-autopsy photos. So see how the actual bruising is on the eyelids. So I don't know how many of you guys have been in a punch up, but the bruising for a punch, it would be equal, I would think, to the top of the eyelid as well as the lower of the eyelid underneath the tear trough. You would get bruising there as well. And the fact that he actually has blood coming from the eye itself tells me that there is extra pressure being put on or into the eye socket itself. So that would account for the blood from there, because I've seen a few punch-ups and I've not seen anyone's eye itself leak blood. Yes, you might have a cut to your brow or underneath your eye where your skin is split, but not so much directly from the eye in that kind of fashion, in that kind of bruising, because that's blood pooled in his eyelids itself. So that would have just completely filled the occipital region, completely filled that eye socket full of blood straight away. Next one. And that to me, oh, bugger, I hate that. Press the wrong button. That hand wound, if you're going to punch someone, you get the bruising on this part of your hand, not so much the back hand. And he could have just like gone whack to the dog to get him off. Or as he's fallen back, maybe he's hit something. Don't know. Just speculating. Oh, I've done it again. I pressed it. So yeah, that's the actual wound, and that looks quite deep to me. And there's the dog bite comparisons. Okay, so the top two pictures are John's arms, or his right arm and forearm, and the bottom two are from Melanie Little's The Dog Expert, and this is their dog training arm that they teach the police dogs to bite onto, and so they train them to not to bite, but also to wriggle and pull back. And also our natural response to pain and being bitten is to pull back from that. So that's why often you see not just a puncture wound, you see a laceration, which is pretty much what you see there in the two. So if you haven't seen it, do go back and have a look. I go into a lot more detail in the video itself. Where am I? Hello. There we go. Oh, and I've missed out on a heap of chat. Sorry. Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't know who did it. I think that definitely, at the very least, Colin and Brian had something to do with it. And I don't think, what's his name? Jen's husband. I don't think that he's intelligent enough to pull that off. I think Brian has the brains. Edwin was never caused. No, absolutely not. No. And we go through that in the next witnesses. I doubt he would have seized immediately, but the thief. Yes, well, I actually thought that 34 steps might have been him seizing, because you often, if you've got your phone in your hand, and you remember, has anyone ever cheated on those, on your steps, on your health thing, and you shake the phone? Could have quite easily have been 36 steps could have possibly been a seizure that he was having because of the head injury. And yes, I did nursing for many years and worked in ICU and coronary care as well. So trying to think of it logically and what to potentially look for in things like that is the bit that I can give some info on. Yeah, the basis are. Yes, absolutely. All they had to do is close the door. Close the door. No one sees. Done. What's NRP and CCEMPT? Have to explain that one for me a little bit more, darling. Thanks, Gabby. Yeah, but gunshots can also cauterize at the same time because of the gunpowder and the heat involved. 3 liters of bloody cauterizer. Yes, that's right. 2/3 is 3 liters. Correct. It's all about justice for John and freedom for Karen at the end of the day. I must apologize too, because I don't know if anyone noticed, yesterday we had a lady in who, I can't remember her, I think it was Kim, and she, I mean, obviously everyone in the chat here is of the same opinion, or has formed the same opinion that I have, because the Commonwealth have not shown me beyond reasonable doubt yet. They have not proven that. So as far as I'm concerned, none of it makes enough sense for me to give a guilty verdict. But one of the girls in the chat yesterday had a completely different opinion, and I didn't address it. I didn't acknowledge it, and when the stream finished, I felt really bad because that's not fair. She's entitled to her opinion as well as just as much as we are, and I am. And there is two sides to every story. There is two sides to every coin. And at the end of the day, we weren't there. We don't know. So common sense and what's presented to me is basically what I'm going on to make to have my opinion, basically. And that's all it is. So please don't feel that you have to support what I believe, and don't feel obligated to not speak up, basically, because that's not what I want here. Right. So let's get on to. Oh, hang on. I'll read some more of these. I worked in the ER. Absolutely not one broken bone, and to only have injuries above the neck up. I think it's there's another YouTube channel I think called Microdots, who actually has put together a reenactment, like a computer generated reenactment of the actual positioning that he would have had to have been in on the side of the road to achieve the injuries that he achieved by being hit by a car. And it just does not, it was just, no, it just didn't make sense. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, being orphaned once is bad enough, but being orphaned twice and then being dragged into court and having to testify in front of someone who was, another adult caregiver in your life, to be told that they are responsible for this tragedy. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have a lot of things to be answered for. I was just say, we also see crazy incidents. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. Yep. Oh, cool. NRP, nationally registered paramedic. Awesome. Corpsman in the US Navy. I bet you have some interesting stories. And some probably not very pleasant. 3 sides. That's right. Sorry, Bri. Yes. His side, her side, and my side. Yep. It's like, what did I used to say? What's yours is mine, and what's mine's my own. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It should not have gotten to this stage. Yeah. And don't forget, the burden has not shifted still. The defense do have to do nothing. Literally. They don't have to do a thing. The burden is still on the Commonwealth. So all of this, what Jackson is doing, is proving a point, as well as poking holes. But they don't literally have to do anything. And yes, he should be. Yes. I don't think we'll get one. I think Bev will push it right to the end. It would be great if we did. But I hope we do. But I just don't think, I don't know, maybe after yesterday's testimony, because I think she was pretty disgusted, just quietly. I think she was pretty disgusted. So you never know. You never know your luck. All right. So did we get, recross. We're still on recross. Sorry. Got distracted there for a second. Yeah, exactly. My cursor is. Yay! 2 US Navy corpsmen in the chat because we're so clever, all of us. Don't leave yet, detective. Come on. It's a sidebar. Won't it? Oh, it's like a 10-second interval. I bet you he comes back from sidebar and just sits down. Do you know my daughter came over the other day and she got called up for jury duty, or she had a letter sent to her for jury duty, and I was like, oh yay, how exciting. And she said her boss wouldn't let her take the time off. I'm like, no. And yeah, apparently there's a big trial going on in Melbourne. We can't. In Melbourne, it's so different. We don't have, well, there is access to Supreme Court, but yeah, I think they've given up. Oh, okay. The end. What was I saying? No, it's gone. Oh, do the shorts. Okay. You two, you have your lovely little chitty chats because I have no idea what you're talking about. How many careers are done? Yes. All right. No worries, Bri. You too. Stay safe. The downside of a directed verdict would be not having all the incredibly damning evidence of the defense. Yes. I think haven't they allocated 4 days for the defense to present their case? 4 days? Is that right? Oh, is she? Okay. I'll keep playing. Oh. Hang on, I'll go back then. Oops. No, I missed it. Can't get my cursor close enough. Thank you, Coffee Cafe. I want to listen for this hot mic now. Come on. And we've lost 40 people in chat because it's 11 o'clock and court is starting. No sound yet. I heard, if I may have that exhibit. All right, Brian Gallerani. Now, this poor gentleman bum doesn't even hit the seat long enough for it to get warm. He's literally there for like 2 minutes. So this is Brian Gallerani from Needham PD, and basically he gets up, testifies, yes, I was the one that took the buccal swabs from Buchanan and Proctor, and leaves. No cross-examination. That's it. Done. Simple. The next one on is Nicholas Bradford. He is a DNA analyst at Bodhi Technology, and he was requested to do testing on the hair sampling of the car. Basically, he testified that there wasn't enough DNA material on the hair, and it needed mitochondrial DNA testing. So they sent it off for mitochondrial DNA testing. No cross-examination from him either. The next one gets on, and her name is Tess Chart. She's a forensic DNA analysis at Bodhi Technology, and she was able to do the mitochondrial DNA analysis. All right. And this is on the hair that was on the car, on the back of the car. And basically, the results showed that John could not have been excluded from contributing to that sample of hair. So he couldn't be ruled out that it wasn't his, basically. It wasn't definitive that it was him because there wasn't enough evidence, but he couldn't be ruled out either. And no cross-examination from that witness either. They were all on for that entire, took 10 minutes max. So then Andre Porto comes on. Now, he's a forensic scientist at Massachusetts Crime Lab in their DNA unit. He uses lots and lots of big words. And they asked him for further analysis of DNA profile of the swab on the taillight. That's right. Okay, so we're going to listen to Andre Porto because he was asked to do the DNA on the taillight, the glass, the clothing of John, shoes, all that. So honestly, you don't want to sit and listen to these scientists go on about genomes and binomes and mitochondrial DNA and blah, 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 blah. Basically, they couldn't rule out that it wasn't John, but they couldn't say definitively it was. So this is Andre Porto. Welcome, Andre. Join us. Is this Andre? 5:32. Yes, 'tis him. Thank you. Have a great day, Coffee Cafe. Stay safe and warm. You're welcome. Thanks, Abby. Oh. I haven't added it to stage.
Yeah, so this organization, ANAB, they came into our lab and they reviewed all of our protocols.
I'm replying to emails, and you're watching me reply to emails. It's not even on the screen. It's on my screen. Sorry.
Ranging from facility security to the protocols that we do in the lab to staff
Thanks, Gabby. Bye.
education and training, and to make sure that we're meeting all the standards that we are being accredited to.
And the lab at MSPCL, its accreditation, is it up to date at this point?
Yes.
With reference to yourself personally, sir, in regard to your casework, in regard to your training, are you familiar with the term proficiency testing?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what that is and sort of how often and what consists of the proficiency testing that you've done?
Yeah, so a proficiency test is given on a semi-annual basis, so twice a year, by an outside agency, and we don't know what the results are, and we treat it as a regular case. So we take it through the regular DNA processing, and we have to pass that proficiency test to show that we maintain our competency in whatever work that we are doing in casework.
And sir, as far as the proficiency testing that you've undergone, what have been the results of your proficiency testing?
I've passed all of mine.
Now, sir,
Or
maybe
she
in
is
terms
where
of
he
pretty
actually
well
starts.
And a negative
Explanation.
control is a sample that has no DNA in it and that only receives the reagents that we are using. And that is to show that there's no inherent contamination of the reagents that we used.
Let me ask you, sir, if you know, what are some of the ways to prevent sort of DNA transfer from yourself or from someone else working on the case or from other samples that you may be working on with others?
Yeah, so there are many ways. One way is to clean the workspace before we start working and after, just to make sure that it's constantly being cleaned. Another way is to wear lab PPE, so personal protective equipment like lab coats, face masks, and hairnets. And another one is to make sure that we only have one tube open at a time so that we don't have any cross-contamination between samples.
Now, your work specifically, sir, does it undergo some sort of review process?
It does.
And specifically your work in this case, did it undergo that same sort of general review process pursuant to the policies and procedures you were speaking about before?
Yes, it did.
Now, when a case comes into the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab, it's assigned a specific case number, correct?
Correct.
And in this instance, I'm referring to a case number entitled 22-02184. Familiar with that case?
I am.
And you did tested a number of different items within that case, correct?
Correct.
Now, as far as the items are concerned, similar to how the items from a specific investigation or case are assigned a case number, are those different items assigned different item numbers as well?
Yes, they are.
And if there is something that is taken, swabbed, or cut, or something from a specific item, how is that labeled in relation to the item that it was taken from?
So basically, let's say we have a parent item that's numbered 2-1. And then if we take a cutting of that item, it would be called, if it's the first cutting, it would be called 2-1.1.
Now, in this case, sir, was a known standard process?
Yes, it was.
And can you explain to the jury sort of how that process occurs in regard to processing a known standard?
Yeah, so the lab processing is the same where it undergoes the same 4-step process. And a qualified analyst then looked at the DNA profile that was generated to make sure that it was a single source profile, meaning at each location that we looked at, there were only 1 or 2 peaks. And after that, it underwent the technical and administrative review process before it was closed out and ready for use for comparison.
And do you know whose known DNA standard was processed in this case?
Yes.
And who was it?
Known blood standard from John O'Keefe.
Now, as far as your involvement in this case, what was your involvement in this case?
I performed the testing of the questioned items.
And did you have occasion to perform DNA analysis on certain items submitted to your lab in connection with this case?
Yes, I did.
And let me ask you about some specific items. Were you asked to perform some analysis on a item labeled 3-1.1?
Yes, I was.
And if you know, what was that a sample from?
Would I be able to refer to my notes? Thank you. So that was a sample from passenger side tail light.
And with respect to that, there was a sample that was, or DNA profile that was generated from that swab from the tail light, correct?
Correct.
And what, if anything, were the findings, or what kind of, what was the conclusion of the analysis of the profile from the swab taken from the tail light of the vehicle?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a 3-person mixture, including male DNA.
And to be more specific, when an item comes in, it's assigned an item number. There's also a description that's provided along with sort of where the item came from.
Correct.
And so specifically, item 3-1.1 is a sample from passenger side tail light, and it gives a specific Massachusetts registration plate of 3GC684, correct?
Correct.
And so from the analysis of the swab or the profile that was obtained from the swab from the tail light, what, if anything, was that compared to?
John O'Keefe, standard.
So the sample from Mr. O'Keefe?
Correct.
Yeah, they took a
And with
hair sample.
regard,
to compare it to.
Was that a comparative analysis that you conducted yourself?
Yes.
And what, if any, opinions or conclusions did you come from as far as the comparative analysis between the swab from the taillight from that vehicle and the profile from Mr. O'Keefe?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 510 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals.
See what I mean
and
about
this provides support for an inclusion.
all the big words?
Yeah, now,
What
so
I
with
might do,
reference to-
he goes through all of the swabs taken. So the hair on the car, it was sent out to another laboratory that did the mitochondrial DNA analysis because it didn't have enough DNA. It didn't have enough material on it to be able to be done in their labs. They didn't have the special equipment, so it got sent out. He reports on the sample from the rear bumper that had insufficient human DNA detected. He then went on to report on the sample that was taken from the exterior of the tail light. Had a mixture of contributors, which you wouldn't find unusual because, there would have been herself, John's DNA, possibly the 2 children. That car was used by whoever, and it could have been transferred by anybody. So that really was neither here nor there. Then he did the stain on the upper right leg of the jeans, and there was 3 contributors to that. But the conclusion was that the sample did originate from John O'Keefe, which, that of course it's either his blood or his vomit, no doubt. So pretty much they just went through those few things, and it was nothing unexpected at all. It was either inconclusive or it came from John, pretty much. So that's in the hour that he was on the stand. That's pretty much what he came up with. So what I might do is I might have a break for 10 minutes or so, and I might start another live stream and do today's court, seeing as that was started 15 minutes ago. So I shall end up here, set up again, and see how long I can last. All right. Thank you again for joining me. Fantastic evening again. Lovely to see you all. And I look forward to seeing you again. So until next time, I bid you adieu.
He assumed she ran him over without evidence or clue. I got the Bad Bunny blues. He assumed she ran him over without evidence or clue. I got the Bad Bunny blues. 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 Hey, since she ran him over without evidence or clues, I got the Bad Bunny blues. And now I comment on